Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister has denounced the United States' support for Israel's atrocities against the Palestinian people.
The United States, particularly the current administration, is an accomplice to all the crimes that the Zionist entity has committed. All destructions, all mass killings, all aggressions have been committed with the blatant support and blind cooperation of the United States government. Various
Mohammad Javad Zarif described the Israeli regime as the single most serious threat to human rights and global peace. He said the continuation of Palestinian people's resistance shows that those who believe the US could be a peace broker were badly mistaken. Zarif also pointed to the US assassination of Iran's top commander, Lieutenant General Qasem Soleimani, in January. He condemned Washington and Tel Aviv for resorting to terrorism to advance their agenda. Zarif was speaking at a webinar hosted by South Africa on the occasion of International Quds Day. Former U.S. Army psychological warfare officer Scott Bennett joins us now from San Francisco for some reaction on that story. Scott, welcome. It's perhaps befitting that Zarif was speaking at a virtual event hosted by South Africa, which went through, apartheid, and many comparisons have been made between apartheid South Africa and Israel.
Yeah, I think you're wise to identify the commonality that South Africa has gone through. And it's interesting to look at South Africa, Brazil, Russia, India, China, the BRICS nations, the BRICS political bloc that is emerging as a counterbalance to the Western hegemony-dominated world order. I think is something to evaluate for days and months and years to come. I think these alternative multipolar world institutions and groups and alliances and coalitions are going to serve as very effective counterbalances to the hegemony and the militarism and really the arrogance and the pirate attitude that the West seems to have become deluded with. And I think the Israeli Zionist entity in the Palestinian argument is going to be one of the first areas to really see some major change. The classic Israeli Zionist argument, of course, has about as much common sense as people claiming Scottish heritage moving back and owning Stonehenge. If you can make the same argument that because you claim to have certain religious or ethnic or blood ties that you are naturally entitled to a geographical area of land, then certainly I, as a Scotsman, can make the same claim against Stonehenge or other areas of Scotland that date back thousands of years. And of course, it's a ludicrous argument, but yet this is but what has been purveying and infecting the Western mind through Christian Zionism and many of the political decisions over the last 5 years. Zarif, I think, is an extraordinarily eloquent man, and he speaks the English language better than Mike Pompeo and many of the American political establishment, so I enjoy listening to him. And I think one thing that has exacerbated the whole situation, which we talked about last year when I had the pleasure of coming to Iran, or actually 2 years ago in 2018 for the New Horizons Conference, we talked about the Israeli antagonisms and ferocity and warmongering and snipers and shooting innocent Palestinians in the leg to cripple them, spraying feces on the homes and the buildings of the Palestinians as a tool to try and expel them through degradation, the homosexuality that is rampant in Tel Aviv. All of these things that the Israeli Zionist entity does to the Palestinians and does to the surrounding land certainly does not gain them any political support from moral people. And I think the world is catching on and witnessing that. And many in the Americas are witnessing that too, that the Israelis are some of the most apartheid, fascist bigots on the face of the planet that have lied and deceived to the American people into believing and backing this genocide that they have launched against the Palestinian people. But I think with the emergence of Iran and Russia and Syria and a counterbalance to this fascistic expansionism of the Israeli Zionist geography and pushing back against the Western hegemony crusade and militarism that has infected some of the Middle Eastern countries, I think we're going to see a rollback. I think we're going to see a change, and that's probably the optimism that the spiritual leaders in Iran, the political leaders in Iran, the foreign policy persons are naturally feeling. And I think you're going to have many, many people in the West, professors, academics, former military, intelligence sort of people, coming to the realization that many are in the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, that Iran is not a threat to the American people or the American interests. And when that really starts to take root, you're going to see an instant deceleration and backing away and rejection of much of the Israeli Zionist political goals that they've plotted and planned for the last 40 years.
Okay, Mr. Bennett, thank you very much indeed for your analysis there. Scott Bennett, former U.S. Army Psychological Warfare Officer, joining us out of San Francisco.